My husband said to lose the baby weight first, so I went out with his best friend. Our daughter was 3 weeks old when Marcus said it. I was standing in our bedroom, trying to fit into my pre-pregnancy jeans because we were supposed to go to his work dinner. The zipper wouldn't close and I started crying, hormones still everywhere from the birth. Marcus walked in and watched me struggle for a minute. Then he said maybe I should skip the dinner. When I asked why, he shrugged and said I should probably lose the baby weight first before going out in public with him. He said it casually, like he was commenting on the weather. I stood there in silence while he finished getting dressed. He kissed my forehead, told me to rest up, and left for the dinner alone. I sat on the bed holding our sleeping daughter and cried for 2 hours straight. The next morning, I got a text from Marcus's best friend, Danny. He asked if I was okay because Marcus had told everyone at dinner that I wasn't feeling well. Danny said he wanted to check in since he knew how hard the first few weeks with a newborn could be. His wife had gone through it twice. I thanked him and said I was fine. But Danny kept texting over the next few days. Not flirty, just friendly. Asking about the baby, sending photos of meals his wife made, offering to drop off groceries. Marcus started working late almost every night after that. He'd come home around 10, shower immediately, then fall asleep without asking about his daughter. I was doing everything alone. Feeding, changing, waking up 6 times a night. When I mentioned needing help, Marcus said he was exhausted from providing for us. He reminded me that I wasn't working right now, so childcare was my job. Danny texted again, asking if I wanted to grab coffee while his wife watched both kids. I said yes without thinking. We met at a cafe downtown, and Danny looked uncomfortable the entire time. He kept glancing at his phone and starting sentences he didn't finish. Finally, he said he needed to tell me something but didn't know how. I asked what was wrong, and he said he'd noticed things about Marcus lately. Strange things. I asked what he meant. Danny said Marcus had been acting different for months, even before the baby came. Secretive, disappearing for hours, lying about where he'd been. Danny said he'd confronted him once, and Marcus got angry, told him to mind his own business. I went home that day and started paying attention. Marcus's phone was always face down now. He'd changed his password, and when I asked why, he said it was for work security. His gym bag smelled like cologne, not sweat. He was showering the second he walked through the door every single night. I met Danny 2 more times over the next month. Each time he had more observations. Marcus canceling plans last minute, Marcus lying about working late when Danny had seen his car somewhere else, Marcus buying things that never showed up at our house. Danny's wife Rachel started coming to these meetings too. She said she'd noticed things on her end. Marcus asking Danny weird questions about divorce lawyers, about custody laws, about how assets got split. She thought it was for a friend at first, but Marcus never mentioned any friend going through a divorce. I started checking our accounts. Everything looked normal at first, but then I noticed small withdrawals. Always in cash, always on days Marcus said he was working late. 300 here, 500 there. Over the past 6 months, nearly $8,000 had disappeared. I couldn't find where it went. No new purchases, no receipts, nothing in the house to show for it. The money was just gone. Then Rachel found something. She'd been going through old photos from a BBQ at their house last summer, before I got pregnant. In the background of one picture, she'd caught Marcus on his phone. She zoomed in, and the screen was visible. It was a dating app. The profile picture was clearly Marcus, but the name said Mike, and the age was wrong. I met Danny and Rachel one more time. They brought everything they'd collected. Screenshots, dates, times, observations. Danny said he was sorry it took so long, but he wanted to be absolutely sure before destroying my life. He slid a folder across the table and told me there was more. Bank statements he'd found in Marcus's car, from an account I'd never seen, a lease agreement for an apartment across town, and photos. I opened the folder and looked at the first photo, but the woman in it wasn't a stranger. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below. I stare at Rachel's face in the photo, my breath catching in my throat. The woman in Marcus's arms isn't some stranger. It's Danny's wife, Rachel, my friend, the person who's been sitting across from me at coffee shops for weeks, pretending to help me. I look up from the folder, my hands shaking so badly the photo trembles. Rachel and Danny exchange a nervous glance across the table. The restaurant noise around us suddenly feels distant, like I'm underwater. How long have you known? I whisper to Danny, my voice barely audible. Danny runs his hand through his hair, looking physically ill. I suspected something about 8 months ago. Rachel was acting strange, disappearing at odd hours. I followed her once and saw them together outside that apartment building. He points to another photo in the folder, but I didn't have proof until recently. I flipped through more photos, each one worse than the last. Marcus and Rachel kissing outside the apartment door. Marcus carrying groceries into the building while Rachel waits in the car. The two of them laughing at a restaurant I've never been to. Rachel reaches across the table, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I jerk my hand away before she can touch me. Don't. My eyes fall on bank statements in the folder. Monthly payments to Rachel, $500 here, $300 there, the exact amounts missing from our account. He's been paying you? I ask, disgust rising in my throat. Rachel looks down. For the apartment, it's in my name. Danny slides another paper toward me. The affair started before your pregnancy. Look at the dates. I scan the timeline he's created. The first payment to Rachel was made 14 months ago. I only got pregnant 11 months ago. The realization makes me dizzy. This wasn't some postpartum thing. This wasn't about my body or the baby. This was happening long before. Why are you showing me this now? I ask Danny, suddenly suspicious. If you've known for months, I didn't know how to tell you, Danny says, his voice breaking. And then you got pregnant, and I thought maybe it would stop. I confronted Marcus once, and he swore it was over. He looks at Rachel, who's staring at her hands, but it wasn't. I found evidence in Marcus's car 2 months ago, Rachel says quietly. Receipts, notes. I realized how deep it went. That's when I told Danny everything. So, all those meetings, all those times you were checking on me for Marcus. My voice trails off as the betrayal sinks in. No, Danny says firmly. That was real. I was worried about you. I just didn't know how to tell you the whole truth. Rachel pushes her phone toward me, a text conversation open on the screen. You should see this too. I scroll through messages between Marcus and Rachel. My stomach lurches when I see what they've been saying. Marcus, just hang on until after the baby comes. I'll figure out how to leave. Rachel, you promised months ago. I can't keep doing this. Marcus, the timing has to be right. If I leave now, I'll lose everything in the divorce. He was planning to leave after our daughter was born. I whisper, the words burning my throat. He was just waiting for the right moment. Something rises in my throat that isn't words. I barely make it to the bathroom before I'm violently sick, heaving into the toilet as my entire world collapses around me. I press my forehead against the cool stall door, trying to breathe through the panic. When I come back to the table, Danny has paid the bill. Rachel is gone. I told her to leave, Danny explains. I thought it would be easier. How are you so calm? I ask him, gathering the evidence with trembling hands. I'm not, he says, and I notice the redness around his eyes. I've just had longer to process it. We sit in silence for a moment, two people connected by the worst kind of betrayal. What are you going to do? Danny finally asks. I think about my daughter at home with my mother, not even a month old. I think about Marcus, who's probably at the apartment with Rachel right now, thinking I'm none the wiser. I think about the nursery we painted together, the future we planned, all built on lies. I need to get some things from the house, I say, suddenly clear-headed, before he comes home. Danny nods and stands up. I'll drive you. The ride to my house is silent. I stare out the window, clutching the folder of evidence to my chest like armor. Danny keeps glancing at me, like he's afraid I might shatter. Why did you help me? I ask as we pull into my driveway. You could have just left with Rachel. Danny turns off the engine and looks at me directly. Because what they did was wrong, and because you and your daughter deserve better. Inside, I move on autopilot. I pack essentials for the baby diapers, clothes, formula, then I grab clothes for myself, important documents, the laptop. Danny helps me carry everything to his car. As I take one last look around the house I shared with Marcus, I feel strangely empty. This morning, I was a new mother struggling with my body image and an absent husband. Now I'm something else entirely, a woman with her eyes wide open. Where to? Danny asks as we pull away from the curb. My mom's, I say, watching our house disappear in the side mirror. I need to figure out what comes next. My phone buzzes with a text from Marcus, working late again. Don't wait up. I turn off my phone without replying. For the first time in months, I know exactly where Marcus is and what he's doing. And for the first time since our daughter was born, I feel like I can breathe. Danny and I spend the next day at my mom's house, sorting through the evidence. I'm sitting cross-legged on the living room floor, while my daughter sleeps in her portable bassinet nearby. Every few minutes, I glance at her perfect little face, wondering how Marcus could betray us both so completely. I think we should confront Rachel again, I say, arranging bank statements in chronological order. There's something she's not telling us. Danny nods, his eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. I'll call her. An hour later, Rachel sits stiffly on my mother's couch. She looks terrible, pale, and hollow-eyed, like she hasn't slept in days. There's more, she says without preamble. Things I didn't want to say in front of you yesterday. I brace myself. Tell me. Rachel takes a shaky breath. Marcus has been complaining about your body for months, even before you gave birth. Her voice cracks. He'd text me things like, she's letting herself go, and I can't even look at her anymore. The words hit like physical blows. I remember how self-conscious I felt during pregnancy, how Marcus stopped touching me around the 6th month. He has a secret apartment, Rachel continues, the one in the photos. But what you don't know is, she pauses, looking physically ill. There's a nursery in it. For our, she can't finish the sentence. For your what? I ask, though I already know the answer. I'm pregnant, Rachel whispers. 3 months. He was planning for us to be his second family. The room spins. I hear Danny make a strangled noise beside me. I found prenatal vitamins in her bathroom cabinet last week, Danny says, his voice hollow. I thought they were old ones from when we had the kids, but they were new. I force myself to stand, needing to move, to do something with the rage building inside me. I need to see this apartment. An hour later, we're standing in a modern one-bedroom across town. The lease agreement Danny found was legitimate. Marcus has been paying $1,800 a month for this place since before I got pregnant. The nursery is painted pale yellow with a white crib already assembled in the corner. He told me yellow was too gender neutral for our baby, I say, running my hand along the crib rail. He insisted on pink for our daughter. In the bathroom, I find the prenatal vitamins exactly where Danny described. The master bedroom closet holds clothes I've never seen Marcus wear and lingerie that isn't my size. On the nightstand is a framed photo of Marcus and Rachel at some beach I don't recognize. When was this taken? I ask, holding up the frame. Rachel looks away. Last summer. He told you he was on a business trip to San Diego. I remember that week I'd just found out I was pregnant. I was so excited for him to come home so I could share the news. Back at my mother's house, Danny helps me contact an attorney who specializes in infidelity cases. The lawyer is brutally efficient, explaining exactly what documentation we need and how to secure our finances. Half of your joint assets are legally yours, she explains over the phone. I suggest you transfer that amount to a separate account immediately and document everything: the apartment lease, the payments to Rachel, all of it. My phone has been buzzing constantly with texts from Marcus. Working late again? Don't wait up. How's the baby? Miss you both. Each message feels like acid on my skin. He has no idea I know everything. What are you going to do? Danny asks as I stare at the phone. I'm going to take my lawyer's advice, I say, suddenly clear-headed. I'm going to protect myself and my daughter. While Danny watches the baby, I call the bank and transfer exactly half our savings to a new account in my name only. Then I contact contact a locksmith who agrees to come immediately to change the locks on our house. The entire time, I feel strangely calm, like I'm watching someone else methodically dismantle a marriage. I filed for divorce this morning, Danny says quietly as we drive back to my house. My lawyer is working with yours. I reach over and squeeze his hand. I'm sorry. Don't be. We're in this together now. The locksmith finishes just as the sun begins to set. I pay him in cash and thank him for coming on such short notice. Then Danny helps me print the divorce papers my lawyer emailed over. I place them in the center of the kitchen table with Marcus's wedding ring on top. I found it in the bathroom drawer this morning where he'd been hiding it. Are you sure you want to do it this way? Danny asks. You could stay at your mom's until he's served formally. I shake my head. No. I want him to know that I know. I want to see his face when he realizes it's over. Danny reluctantly agrees to leave, promising to stay close by. I feed and bathe my daughter, then settle her in her crib upstairs. Around 10, I hear Marcus's key in the door, followed by confusion when it doesn't work, then knocking. Gentle at first, then more insistent. I open the door and stand there silently. Marcus looks startled to see me. Hey, what's going on with the lock? He asks, trying to kiss my cheek. I step back. Your papers are on the table, I say, my voice steadier than I expected. I know about Rachel. I know about the apartment. I know everything, Marcus. His face drains of color as he steps inside, seeing the divorce papers waiting for him. For a moment, he just stares at them, and I can almost see him calculating how much I actually know, how he might talk his way out of this. Whatever you're thinking, I say quietly. Don't bother. I have photos, bank statements, and a very clear picture of your second nursery across town. Marcus collapses into a kitchen chair, his carefully constructed world crumbling around him, and for the first time since my daughter was born, I feel strong. Marcus stands in our kitchen, staring at the divorce papers like they might disappear if he looks at them long enough. His face has drained of all color, and for a moment, I feel a twisted satisfaction at seeing him so completely blindsided. This is ridiculous, he finally says, pushing the papers away. Whatever you think you know. I slide my phone across the table, showing him one of the photos Danny took, Marcus and Rachel, kissing outside the apartment door. There are dozens more, I say, my voice steadier than I expected. Dating back 14 months, before I was even pregnant, Marcus's eyes dart around the room like a cornered animal. You don't understand. Rachel came after me. She was obsessed. I tried to end it so many times. The doorbell rings, cutting him off mid-lie. I check my phone and see a text from Danny. Rachel's here, says she needs to talk to both of you. When I open the door, Rachel looks terrible, pale, and shaking. Danny stands a few feet behind her, arms crossed. Tell her the truth, Rachel, Danny says quietly. All of it. I lead them into the kitchen where Marcus is still sitting, his face hardening when he sees Rachel. The look that passes between them tells me everything I need to know. You promised you wouldn't say anything, Marcus hisses at her. Rachel's hands tremble as she sits down across from him. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep lying. She turns to me, tears streaming down her face. He approached me first. At your housewarming party 2 years ago, you were in the kitchen with my kids, and he cornered me in the hallway, told me he'd always found me attractive. Marcus slams his fist on the table. That's not how it happened. It is, Rachel continues, her voice growing stronger. He pursued me for months. I said no repeatedly until, she looks down at her hands, until I didn't. That's on me. I'm not innocent in this. When did you start planning to leave me? I ask Marcus directly, needing to hear it from him. He stares at the table, refusing to meet my eyes. Tell her, Danny says, his voice hard with controlled anger. Tell her what you told Rachel about your plans after the baby was born. Marcus's jaw tightens. You don't know what it's been like, living with someone who let herself go, who only talks about the baby, who— I was pregnant, I shout, my composure finally breaking. I was carrying your child, and now you're just fat, Marcus snaps, the words exploding out of him. The room goes deadly silent as the full ugliness of his character reveals itself. There it is, Danny says quietly. The real Marcus. Rachel looks physically ill. He told me he was going to wait until you recovered from the birth, then ask for a divorce. Said he wanted an upgrade after you ruined your body with the pregnancy. I feel like I've been punched. Even knowing about the affair, hearing these words makes my stomach turn. Danny steps forward, placing a hand on my shoulder. He's been saying things like that for months. At the gym, when you were 7 months pregnant, he told everyone your body disgusted him, that he couldn't wait to trade up to a hotter model once the baby was born. I look at Marcus, this stranger I married, trying to reconcile the man who held my hand during labor with the monster sitting at my kitchen table. Our daughter is 3 weeks old, I whisper. Were you ever planning to be her father? Of course I was, Marcus protests, suddenly animated. I'd still see her on weekends, pay child support. I wasn't abandoning her. Just me, I say flatly. The doorbell rings again. This time, it's my attorney, Victoria Chen, carrying a briefcase and wearing an expression that suggests she's seen this scenario play out 100 times before. Mrs. Chen, I say, gesturing her in. Thank you for coming. Marcus's eyes widen. You brought a lawyer to our house? What the hell? Victoria sets her briefcase on the table and removes several documents. Mr. Harmon, I'm representing your wife in divorce proceedings. Given the extensive documentation of your infidelity and financial deception, I thought it might be beneficial to outline the penalties you're facing. She methodically explains how his secret apartment, the cash withdrawals, and the documented affair will affect asset division in our state. As she details the financial consequences, Marcus's face crumples. This can't be happening, he mutters, running his hands through his hair. You can't take everything from me. I'm not taking everything, I correct him. I'm taking what's legally mine, plus compensation for your betrayal, as outlined in our state's infidelity statutes. Danny steps forward, placing a folder on the table. This is the lease agreement for the apartment, in case you're wondering how we found it. Marcus glares at him. You had no right to go through my things. Rachel found the lease in your car, Danny replies, along with the bank statements showing you've been funding a second household while your wife struggled to buy diapers. Marcus turns to me, his expression suddenly softening. Think about our daughter, he pleads, his voice dropping to the gentle tone I once loved. She needs both her parents. We can work this out. For a moment, I almost falter. Then I remember the nursery in his secret apartment, the crib waiting for Rachel's baby. Our daughter deserves better than a father who was planning to abandon her mother, I say firmly. I pick up my phone and play a video Rachel sent me earlier. Marcus sitting on the couch in the secret apartment, talking about his exit strategy. I'll wait until she's recovered enough to handle the baby alone, his voice says clearly from the phone's speaker. A few weeks after the birth, then I'll tell her it's not working, that we've grown apart. She'll be too exhausted to fight it. Marcus stares at the screen, his face ashen. You recorded me? Rachel nods. After you told me about wanting to leave her with a newborn, I needed evidence. I couldn't be part of destroying someone like that. Victoria Chen gathers her papers. Mr. Harmon, I suggest you find representation immediately. The court date is set for next month. She hands him a card. This is the date and time you're expected to appear. Don't be late. As she leaves, Marcus sits motionless at the table, the reality of his situation finally sinking in. Our daughter begins crying upstairs, the tiny wails cutting through the tense silence. That's my cue, I say, standing up. I need to feed her. Can I see her before I go? Marcus asks, his voice small. I consider saying no, but despite everything, he is still her father. 5 minutes, I concede. And then, I want you out of this house. As I lead him upstairs to the nursery, I realize I'm not angry anymore, just sad for what could have been, and relieved that I discovered the truth before wasting any more years with someone who never truly loved me. Our daughter quiets when I lift her from the crib, her tiny fingers curling around my pinky. Marcus reaches out tentatively to touch her cheek, and for a moment, I see genuine emotion in his eyes. She deserves better than what you planned for us, I say quietly. Remember that when you're fighting me in court. The courtroom is eerily silent as the judge delivers his ruling. After weeks of legal battles and emotional testimony, it's finally over. I sit with perfect posture, my hands folded in my lap to hide their trembling, as Judge Winters awards me primary custody of our daughter and the majority of our assets. Given the extensive documentation of infidelity and financial deception, he says, looking directly at Marcus, the court finds in favor of the petitioner. Marcus sits at the opposite table, shoulders slumped in defeat. The expensive lawyer he hired at the last minute looks almost embarrassed. When the gavel falls, finalizing the judgment, I feel nothing but exhaustion. No triumph, no vindication, just the hollow relief of surviving something terrible. Danny waits for me in the hallway, holding my daughter in her carrier. He's been my rock through this entire process, attending every hearing and watching the baby when I needed to meet with Victoria. How did it go? He asks, though the answer is written on my face. We won, I say simply, reaching for my daughter. It's over. 2 days later, I'm sorting through mail when I find a card from Marcus's parents. I haven't spoken to them since everything happened, unsure where they stood in all of this. Inside is a handwritten note expressing their profound apology and unconditional support for their granddaughter. They've included a check that I immediately decide to put into a college fund for her. We had no idea what Marcus was doing, his mother writes. We raised him better than this. Please know we want to be part of our granddaughter's life, if you'll allow it. I'm still holding the card when my phone rings. It's Danny. Rachel lost the baby, he says without preamble, his voice hollow. Miscarriage at 11 weeks. I sink into a chair, processing this news. Despite everything Rachel did, I wouldn't wish that pain on anyone. How is she? I ask, devastated and alone. There's a long pause. Marcus abandoned her the moment she told him, said it wasn't his problem anymore. Of course he did. The man who couldn't handle his wife's postpartum body certainly wouldn't stick around for someone else's miscarriage. I feel a strange mix of emotions, anger at Marcus, pity for Rachel, and beneath it all, a small, shameful relief that there won't be another child caught in this mess. 3 weeks later, Danny helps me move into a small house I've rented across town. It's nothing fancy, but it has a fenced yard and a sunny nursery for my daughter. As we unpack boxes in the kitchen, I notice how naturally we've fallen into a rhythm together. Why are you doing all this? I ask him, watching as he assembles a high chair. You don't owe me anything. Danny looks up, his eyes serious. After what Rachel and Marcus did to both of us, I guess I needed something good to focus on. And you and this little one, he nods toward my daughter sleeping in her portable bassinet, you're good. The months pass. I establish a new routine, find a job with flexible hours, and start rebuilding my life. My daughter grows, hitting milestones that I document meticulously. Marcus pays his court-ordered child support on time but makes no effort to see his daughter until she's 6 months old. I want to be part of her life, he says when he calls. I know I messed up, but she's still my daughter. Victoria advised me to expect this. Most absent parents eventually want back in, she warned. Have clear boundaries ready. I agreed to supervised visitation at a family center, twice a month for 2 hours. The first visit is awkward. Marcus tries to hold her, but she cries, not recognizing this stranger. I sit in the corner, watching him fumble with toys and bottles, clearly out of his element. She's beautiful, he says as we're leaving. She looks like you. She does. I agree, not giving him the satisfaction of sharing credit for her perfect face. As summer turns to fall, I find myself spending more time with Danny. We take my daughter to the park, have dinner together several nights a week, and talk for hours after she's asleep. We're careful to call it friendship, both too damaged to name it anything else. One night, sitting on my porch swing while my daughter sleeps inside, Danny tells me about running into Marcus at the grocery store. He's engaged again, Danny says, watching my face carefully. Some woman he met at his gym, known her for 3 months. I'm surprised by how little I feel. Good luck to her. That's it? No jealousy? No anger? I shake my head. I'm just glad it's not my problem anymore. 6 months later, Marcus's hasty marriage ends in an equally hasty divorce. I hear about it from his mother, who has become a regular visitor, bringing homemade baby food and knitted blankets. He never learned to think before acting, she sighs, bouncing my daughter on her knee, always looking for happiness in the wrong places. By my daughter's first birthday, I've started a support group for mothers who experienced betrayal during pregnancy or postpartum. We meet weekly at a local community center, sharing stories and resources. It's healing to transform my pain into something that helps others. Danny attends the birthday party, bringing a tiny rocking chair he built himself. As we watch my daughter smash cake into her hair, surrounded by friends and family who genuinely love her, I realize how far we've come from that terrible night in the restaurant. Later, after everyone has left and my daughter is asleep, Danny helps me clean up. We're washing dishes side by side when he suddenly stops, turning to face me. I need to tell you something, he says, his voice serious. And if it's too much or too soon, we can pretend I never said it. I put down the plate I'm drying, already knowing what's coming. I have feelings for you, he continues, real ones, not just friendship, not just shared trauma, and I've been trying not to have them because of everything we've been through. But I step forward and take his hand, stopping his nervous ramble. I know, I say quietly. I have them too. His eyes search mine. So, what do we do about it? I think about all we've survived, the betrayals, the public humiliation, the legal battles. I think about how Danny was there through all of it, never asking for anything in return. We take it slow, I say, squeezing his hand, really slow, because we both know what happens when you rush into things. Danny nods, relief washing over his face. As he leaves that night, with a careful kiss on my cheek instead of my lips, I stand in the doorway watching him go. For the first time since finding that folder of evidence, I feel something like hope stirring in my chest, not just for survival, but for happiness. Real happiness, built on honesty and respect. My daughter and I are going to be okay. Better than okay. We're going to thrive.